Garrett, good afternoon. The Bengals lost, so I don't want to watch NFL anymore today. We don't have to talk about that. But Hurricane Melissa barreling towards Jamaica and what I've called this weekend likely going to be the worst hurricane to hit the island in modern history. The thing about Hurricane Gilbert, I talked to Brian Norcross about this. Gilbert didn't have the water. It had the wind. It was a Cat 3, Cat 4 borderline when it made landfall 37 years ago. But it was a fast mover, as they usually are this time of the year, honestly. Melissa is not a fast mover, and it's going to drop almost Harvey-level rainfall in some portions of Jamaica, Garrett.
Yeah, it's kind of the worst of two worlds instead of best of both worlds. And also,
kind of the
hello, Dave.
worst
Good to
of
see you
two.
on a Sunday afternoon.
Indeed.
But yeah, it's
Also,
it's
hello,
Harvey
Dave. Good to see you.
and it's Harvey and Michael combined, right? Harvey, which obviously dropped 50 plus inches of rain in the Houston metro area. Michael, which was a Category 5 that made landfall, moving from southwest to northeast on the Florida Panhandle in 2018. This is going to be kind of the take from both, if you will. 40 to 50 inches of rain, probably more. Given orographic and elevation enhancement, and then a Category 4, Category 5 moving southwest to northeast into the island sometime early Tuesday. So as bad as it gets for a given area, this will be probably the benchmark storm for Jamaica. And obviously, we've talked about Gilbert. Gilbert was not as strong coming through Jamaica. It was moving much quicker. Like you said, this is going to be a 2 to 3 day siege, and then all culminating in an onshore push coming up on Tuesday. Likely, I think it reaches. Unfortunately, given these storms, I think its peak will actually be when it's on that northeast push towards the island. So likely a Category 5 at landfall come Tuesday.
Yeah, plane Hurricane Hunter just went through there, 942 millibars, but I think the Hurricane Center's update just came out probably when we were doing the countdown. 941 millibars, they're calling it. Maximum sustained winds at 145 miles per hour. It's a strong Category 4. It becomes a Category 5 at 156. And because the Hurricane Center goes by fives, at 155, it would still be a Cat 4. But then if it got to 160, it would be a Category 5. On satellite, honestly, Garrett, it looks like a Category 5. You have a very concentric Eyewall. The cloud tops are very cold, but there's not a big expanse of those cold cloud tops. Say that 5 times fast. What I mean by that is if I stop the GIF here, the strongest central dense overcast, we're getting really meteorological really soon, it's about the width of the island of Jamaica here. Not super wide. It's a pretty compact storm. On satellite, Garrett, earlier it looked like we were going to have an eyewall replacement cycle where the first smaller eyewall contracts, disappears, and a secondary eyewall takes over, and then that leads to an enlarging of the wind field. That is not happening. I'm going to pull up the radar loop from the...
I think it's Kingston.
Yeah, Kingston.
Right. Yeah. We're on the same page. I was thinking the same thing because there's a lot of, you're going to be able to visually see what you're describing there a little bit better. And actually, its process this morning has been odd and perfect. Here we go.
I'll
You'll
zoom
kind
in
of see
here.
the first inner, kind of the inner donut, if you will.
Let me change
And
this.
then there's a broader ring, which is what we call concentric eye walls. And what you're seeing actually with Melissa here is something we saw in Irma, where instead of there being a full collapse of the inner eye wall, you just got kind of the second eye wall to morph into and kind of reinforce the central eye wall. And so I believe in the last vortex message, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the eye wall in diameter was like 18 to 22 miles, somewhere in that range. Just not small enough yet to kind of get that total collapse of the inner eye wall and get that kind of full ERC cycle going through. And so you can kind of see as you loop through, you have one and then you have two, but they're really just kind of closing. The larger one's closing in on the smaller one. And so like Irma, you really didn't get a drop off, which is why in that storm, if you remember, we had I think it was 3 days of Category 5 or higher intensity of that hurricane. So we had a little bit of a leveling off at 970 millibars. We had a leveling off at 950 millibars. And then, it's continuing to take another drop now down to 941. I'd expect by the end of the show, and probably by early this evening, it's going to be down closer to 930 millibars by the next time. And probably by early this evening, it's going to be down to Melissa.
It's really cool to watch meteorologically how this inner eyewall does not want to go away. It looked like it was. I think I tweeted it out around 1:30 maybe. Let me pull up the tweet. Like when you look at this radar image, it looks like there's your outer band, there's your outer eyewall. It looks like it wants to take over, but it didn't make it all the way around, and that inner wall is still holding really strong. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And the hurricane hunters are in there. They're now well outside the center. I'm assuming this plane is going to do another pass, but there hasn't been an update. I guess there was just an update 8 minutes ago. So I guess they're maybe trying to see how far out the tropical storm force winds extend, because I think that's what we're looking at here. It's about 40 knots flight level, so that's about 35 knots at the surface, which is about tropical storm force.
My guess would be this Air Force plane's done. Would be my guess. I think it's exiting, heading back to whatever bases in the Southeast Caribbean. But there's been a new plane that's taken off from Central Florida, so there will be a NOAA plane in there probably in 2 hours or so, and so we'll see. We'll see what we're going to be dealing with. We could be very close to a Category 5 by the time we get to the 8 p.m. Eastern advisory here.
Yeah, and usually you mentioned earlier of the eye shrinking down. It's like figure skaters. They bring their arms in to spin faster and faster, and that's going to be the same thing that happens here. If the eye is in fact shrinking, which it looks like it is, especially on radar, that's going to make the maximum winds in the eye wall pick up. Nobody has said this in the chat, but I think we should start a GoFundMe for your mic, Garrett. I think AirPods as a mic. Maybe the last time we'll use those as a mic. Again, not your fault.
Yeah, well,
I got mine right here, so understand. But
yeah, well, I do keep asking you to send me some recommendations because you're the expert, but you're slacking on me. So
it's like
maybe we will get
the first half last night.
Yeah.
Rainfall.
So we got it. Yeah, that's going to be now we have, possibly up to 40 inches. I would guess that there's going to be an, exceeding of that amount in areas of the island, which is just going to be, there's no other way to put it. It's going to be catastrophic. What do we have here? The halves B.
Yeah. The halves don't pump out QPF, total precipitation. I don't know what the Euro has. The Euro has a much weaker storm. That's the problem. I mean, it's got a max of about 30 inches. It's going to be way more than that. It's almost impossible to look at a model this soon to landfall. I mean, even the H-Wharf. This is an interesting trend by the H-Wharf, by the way. It misses landfall completely. You got the Eyewall along the western part of the island near, near. I'm blanking on the bay.
Montego Bay. Montego Bay. Think of The Office, Dave. I know you haven't watched, but think of it.
Well,
Montego Bay.
They film we talked about this show on Wednesday about Manifest, the show starring Melissa Roxburgh. Complete coincidence. The show that starts out with Kingston Airlines and this plane disappearing into the storm, flying out of Jamaica, and it's the lead actress is Melissa. And now we have Hurricane Melissa hitting Jamaica.
There we go.
Going through her head. I think the Euro, in terms of timing, is a little fast. With landfall, it's about, what is this, this is 1 a.m. So what's interesting, I learned this today, Garrett. Jamaica operates on Eastern Standard Time year-round. So they don't practice. They don't do daylight savings time, which makes sense. I mean, Eastern Time goes over till about here, I think, give or take. They're in Eastern Time, but daylight savings time is in a week. It ends in a week for the U.S., but they're technically in Central Daylight Time right now. So this would be 1 a.m. Tuesday morning, Jamaican time. The halves are a little bit later. They're about mid-morning on Tuesday. This is at 15Z, so 10 a.m. local time on Tuesday. That's what I think the Hurricane Center has is about 8 a.m.
Hmm. Yep.
Well, in the new advisory, they just changed it. Okay, so this is new. They issued a hurricane warning for the eastern, what do you want to call that, third of Cuba.
Hmm.
I remember
Have they issued hurricane warnings for the Bahamas yet, or
nothing yet
watches
for the
yet? Not yet.
Bahamas,
Not yet.
no, which I'm
I guess we're still
surprised.
outside of the 72-hour window.
Yeah. I remember at the 11 a.m. advisory, they had an M right offshore here at 8 a.m. Tuesday morning. So I think that's about right. It's probably Tuesday morning of landfall. It has shifted a little bit to the west, Garrett, I think,
Yep.
in the past since yesterday's 12Z guidance, since from this afternoon's 12Z guidance. In the span
Hmm.
of about a day, here's your HAFS B model. This is a little bit west. Yesterday, it was basically at the center point of the island from where the eye was going to make landfall, but this is a little further west. Let's see what we
Can we go to our cyclonic WX and
Yeah.
take a look at the official track trend
Oh, yeah,
real
it's a good
quick?
idea.
It's a great site. This is a site we partner with
This one?
at Flash, and yep. No, go back real quick. Um, if you go down to the left, the screen's kind of cut off for me. So
Yeah, it's all the way.
it should be underneath latest model track guidance, and then the drop
Oh,
down menu,
yeah.
and
TVCN
then
or
you
which
can
one?
go to official. Just
Yeah,
we can go to
official.
official
Yeah,
trend.
here you go.
And you can see the red is the latest track. So yeah, you're exactly right. There has been a bit of a shift west, and that's tied to the latitude it's gained. The farther south it tends to be, there tends to be a correlation to the system also wanting to trek farther west. So I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up, fortunately missing Kingston, or at least Kingston missing the worst of the core.
Hmm.
But then Montego Bay, and then Santiago de Cuba, getting the worst of things. The more of the island that this misses, the worse this gets for Cuba and the Bahamas. So there's
Yeah,
trade-offs here when it comes to the peak intensity of the hurricane as it moves its way northeastward and makes its move on Tuesday.
it's good for the Turks and Caicos. I mean, west
Hmm.
is further away from the Turks and Caicos, but I guess the H Wharf does. I was not expecting the H Wharf to show a miss, a complete miss to the west. I
Yeah.
don't think that's going to happen. Actually, it does bring the Eyewall. Like it kind of makes like a big right-hand turn here Tuesday morning. I think the halves are nailing it. It's probably going to make landfall in the western third of the island with the worst
Hmm.
of the surge from about, yeah, due south of Montego Bay over to the inlet right there.
Hmm. Yeah. And so, I mean, obviously a horrible situation regardless for the island of Jamaica. And then as it loops through and you go through to its impact on Cuba and the Bahamas, just kind of in an alternate universe, this is what Sandy was modeled to do by the GFS, right, in 2012. And we're
Mm-hmm.
kind of dodging, the US is dodging what will be a third category 5 bullet this year, sort of in a threatening position, in the
Yeah,
Southwest Atlantic or Caribbean. So obviously after a season where the United States had 5 hurricane landfalls, a reprieve. This will be the first season since 2015 that the U.S. has not had any hurricane landfall.
yeah,
So it is but we weren't able to completely avoid land. Obviously, our friends in Bermuda, have gotten their fair share of activity this year. Obviously, a very small island, but Jamaica, Cuba, Central Bahamas, overall a pretty populated area relative to some other areas. So a lot of people will be impacted by this one.
look at this. Speaking of Bermuda, this is Bermuda from
Gosh.
Melissa on Friday morning. This is
Oh my
120 mile per
gosh.
hour gust in Bermuda on Friday morning. And watch,
Yeah.
like, right. So I talked earlier about how small kind of the inner ring of the strongest
Mm,
convection is, like how small this is. But
yep.
watch as we move this forward, how much bigger this gets. Look how big that
Yeah,
like it doubles on this
right.
side.
Yeah. In what, 36 hours maybe?
So the storm
Yeah.
loses its max wind, but that energy has to go somewhere, so it's spread out, which is what happens when hurricanes make landfall on land. That max wind decreases, but that conservation of energy has to go somewhere, so that makes the winds get spread out, in this case, usually to the downshear side, which is to the southeast. What should we look at?
Yep.
Is
Yep.
this, is Recon leaving? Nothing
Yeah,
new.
if you go to actually scroll down, keep scrolling down. Yeah, there no, I
This
guess
is
not.
the
On
stories.
tropical tidbits, you do see the new Recon.
Oh, yeah, here he
And
is. Yeah, right here. He just left Lakeland.
yep, yep. Kermit is this one in the air,
I've been on
according
Kermit.
to have you?
I've been on Kermit. Not in the air, but
Okay.
on the ground.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have not been on Kermit.
This is a really interesting trend. I'm assuming this is the 5 p.m. advisory. This one.
Yep.
Has to be.
Yep. Yeah. And there will be and kind of bringing these impacts closer to home, I guess, and what will there be on the U.S. East Coast? There will be a very strong trough that is kind of escorting the system out. Very likely a nor'easter kind of forms on the western side of, to the west of Melissa as it moves up. So there will be, tangential impacts, not directly from the hurricane, but from the general pattern. So we have seen a lot of coastal erosion from these out to sea hurricanes. That is what the impact will be as we get mid to late week. Some more um, just high impact surf right along the coastal regions, which again is far and away better than this thing hooking back in. Yep, there you go. For the rip current risk, way less impactful than this hooking back in, which was probably maybe a 1 in 30, 1 in 40 chance 3 or 4 days ago. Obviously, no chance of that now, but there will be some impacts felt farther away from the hurricane. And in addition to the nor'easter that will form to the west, again very similar to the pattern you saw the last season that we did not see a hurricane hit the U.S., which was with Joaquin. Joaquin's very similar time of year, a little bit earlier, but will impact the same portion of the Bahamas, arc out to the northeast with a trough to the west and a nor'easter to form off to its west. So still some impacts, but not nearly what we're going to see with our friends in the Caribbean, and I guess Bermuda as well.
Yeah, Bermuda at some point. Pretty strong language from the Hurricane Center. Extensive infrastructural damage, long duration power outages, communication outages. I mean, power lines, communication lines, et cetera, all down. Isolation of communities, life-threatening storm surge, of course, along that southern coast. Who's going to face the worst of it? I haven't even looked at the storm surge map. Honestly, I don't know how do they put one out? I don't think they put one out.
I don't put for places that are non-US. No.
Yeah.
You know what this is reminding me of, Dave, a little bit. And again, they're not direct parallels, but kind of the crawl west and then the turn north northeast a little bit is Dorian in 2019.
Yeah. Yeah.
The more I think of it, and it just gets you thinking. I mean, that was what 80 to 100 miles off the Florida East Coast. Obviously, this typically a hurricane in the Central Caribbean is a threatening position for Southeast Florida. It's been a very long time. How many more of these can you go without this kind of same? Yeah, I just imagine that the day of that same verbiage being used for some of our areas in Florida, which have escaped. The Melissas, the Dorians, these slow moving, crawling hurricanes in these very warm waters. It's just something to, in future years as we continue to kind of build this network. I'm foreseeing the fact that we might have to have this discussion someday closer to home. But for right now, we continue to be fortunate, especially in an area that ends up being very hurricane prone in the U.S.
I was in Miami when Dorian was 100 miles east. They gave us off of school, but I didn't go home.
Yeah, no.
It was just crazy to know that there was a Cat 5 buzzsaw 100 miles that way in Marsh Harbor, and it didn't impact Southeast Florida at all. But yeah, that slow west jog, which is what Dorian did, is exactly what Melissa's doing right now. and then it got picked up by a trough, a cold front. Well, Dorian was late August in 2018. That was not a cold front. That was a trough. But Andrew Love's saying he doesn't see anything in Jamaica now. For now. Keyword now.
Yeah.
Satellites.
Do you live there? You chasing there, or what is the? I'm assuming living there, but what part of Jamaica do we? You can see the chat. I can't. Would like to know some
Kingston.
more information. Kingston.
It looks like it's not raining in Kingston right now. I can't get this video to. Looks like there might be a band coming in right now. Actually.
Yeah, it's a very, like you said, it's a buzzsaw. It's a very small, tight core. If you go back to the satellite image, like you said, it is truly, one of those. It's a donut, right? That is where the worst of it is. Even these reds and yellows, a lot of these expanding out from the core, just kind of higher level clouds being picked up by the satellite. And so if you're not in that core, which again, the absolute worst case was this being 75 miles farther north, right? And just sitting and raking the island and then turning northeastward. So, being in Kingston right now, knowing a near category 5 is 100 miles off to your south as a crow flies, that part is fortunate. Obviously things will deteriorate as we get through the coming days.
Yeah. The rain is on and off in St. Andrew. Is that St. Andrew, Jamaica? I don't know my Jamaican geography that well. I guess maybe that's something I should study up on before.
We should get that down before we head into tomorrow. I gotta do the same.
Yeah.
Obviously
St. Andrew, Jamaica. It's St. Andrew. It's a parish. Yeah, like the Kingston parish. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're in the southeastern part of the parish, towards Harborview, towards Bull Bay, that band is getting a little bit closer, and this is just going to keep pushing on shore. Are you going to see anything tonight in Jamaica? Yeah, this band is going to move in. That's why I pulled up halves to see when.
Here you go. Yeah. So this does show a pretty good picture of right now, right? That most of the banding is offshore.
Yeah.
You go to probably 9Z tomorrow if you move it forward.
The band actually stays mostly to the south overnight.
Yeah.
It's 4 a.m. local time. But then it's gonna get bad around mid to late morning tomorrow. This is 1 p.m. local time. This is when the winds will start picking up. We can look at surface winds here.
And you got to think of the water spout potential on that east side as well. Just coming on shore, you're going to have actually probably some supercells moving in on those 2 feeder bands off to the right.
Yeah, so this is sustained winds in Kingston, about 30 tonight, 30 overnight, but then tomorrow it picks up 30 to 40, 40 to 50, and then I'm sure the gusts are 100 plus. It's obviously going to depend exactly where this core comes ashore. It could be one of those situations where it's either Kingston or Montego Bay that sees 100 plus gusts because they're far enough apart and because Melissa's not big enough to have major hurricane force gusts, which are 110. Montego Bay could see 110 gusts. Maybe Kingston sees 90 to 100 mile per hour gusts. That's still a category 2 hurricane. Rain falling for days now in St. Thomas. Yeah, usually this is sometimes a good time of the year to go to the Caribbean when you get to November. Kind of a hero or a zero. Remember in 2020 we had Eta. We had the Greek alphabet of storms in 2020, and in November we had 4 or 5 of them, all in the Caribbean heading into Central America. So.
Yeah, my biggest concern is going to be. Obviously, you're going to get. Now that we're getting familiar with the geography of Jamaica a little bit more, Blue Mountains westward into north and west of the metro of Kingston, you're going to get a lot of heavy precipitation up in the mountains. That water is going to feed down into the city, down through the valleys, and so very similar to what we saw with Helene in the United States last year in a very high terrain mountainous area. You're going to get just enhanced levels of precipitation on the eastern side of the island. And so my concern is probably more in the way of, freshwater flooding coming down through the valleys and into the city. And then but you get farther west, anywhere from, Savannah, Lamar down through Black River. I mean, not to be, you know, hyperbolic about it, but you're talking, just like catastrophic level damage at wherever this core goes. In addition to the heavy rainfall ahead of time, there's only, being in a few hurricanes. I haven't been in a ton, but I've been in Ida, which was 150 mile per hour category 4 in southeast Louisiana. When you're not in, and obviously I was in Beryl in the Houston area last year, which was a category 1, but it maintained itself inland. You know, if you're in the core, it's very, very, very bad, and there's no way out. Right, you're hunkering down, and and I don't know how many hurricanes you've been in, Dave, but
Not as many as you. It is a
yeah,
Cat
and
4
so
right now, guys. Cat 4.
right,
We said Cat 2.
right, yeah,
Some of these Cat 4 winds are not going to make it all the way inland, thank God.
right,
The second
right,
the
and
eye hits the land, or any wind hits land, the frictional effect slows down those winds. That does not mean it's not going
yeah,
to be destructive. It is. Right
right,
now, the
yeah,
storm
and
is 145 mile per hour category 4. Sorry,
yeah,
Garrett, continue.
and so the point being, like, you see 145 miles per hour and it doesn't happen in your backyard. Oh man, this wasn't that bad. Well, hurricanes, it's truly in the core. The caveat with Jamaica is you have a lot of high elevations, and so you're going to get these gusts well inland. You're going to get them at higher elevations, and then right on the coast. So it's really does everybody always see the trifecta of storm surge, freshwater flooding, and wind? No, the place that sees all three, things will be unrecognizable maybe for years, and likely in the western part of the island on the coast. But if you're in Kingston, you're in Montego Bay, you're going to feel different effects. Montego Bay is probably not going to have much in the way of storm surge. It's protected on the other side of the island, but the wind, freshwater flooding, if you get two of the three of the combination, it's a pretty devastating system for you. So you just got to kind of hope that you stay out of the core. There's no way anyone's really going to miss out on the heavy rainfall at this point.
Yeah, up to 40 inches of rain. Whenever I see and think big rainfall totals, I think Houston with Harvey and Charleston and Wilmington with Florence. Those were back-to-back years in 17 and 18. But those totals were closer to 50 to 60 inches. But those coastal areas in America do not have the mountains that Jamaica
Right,
has.
right. And well, I moved to Houston in 2022, and so I've been in one rainfall event here that were about 10 to 20 inches area wide, and the water did things to like creeks and streams that like you can't even imagine. You drive over an overpass, and there's right this time of year a barely trickling creek that is 40 feet higher, almost overlapping the overpass. It's unimaginable. The stories I've heard with Harvey though around this area. You drive through, you go to Houston and there's different highways that you move north through the city. And it's just like, yeah, 1960, people were driving their boats on the highway. I'm like, it doesn't compute. Like, you can't even comprehend that, right? Like, there's no water source here. There's no lake. There's no creek. There's no stream within 10 miles. How is water here? And you get in the mountainous areas, it kind of it kind of exacerbates even quicker, right? Because all of the water funnels into a valley. It's what happened in the high terrain of Western North Carolina and with Helene. So those are the type of things that you can't imagine it until it's bearing down on you.
I'm trying to pull up a topographic map. Here you go. And when you see let me move this over a little bit. The highest rainfall totals, eastern part of the island, are exactly where the highest mountains are. 1,500 meters. That's about 5,000 feet up. Those are some high mountains. And you're talking 40 inches of rain falling down 5,000 feet worth of mountains. I mean, the mudslides in the eastern part of the island are going to be just a disaster. I don't know exactly how the runoff works in terms of these mountains between St. Thomas, Portland, St. Andrew, the parishes in the eastern part of the island. But yeah, not good.
Yeah, I would
If you were,
assume
Garrett, if you were,
if you're in,
go ahead.
God.
No, go
No,
ahead.
I was just gonna say if you're in St. Andrew, right? And if you know of the valleys and the creeks that run through, most of the time along the main drag in those valleys, it's usually right along the stream because that's the path of least resistance.
Hmm.
Those areas are going to flood.
Yeah,
Those are the
100%.
areas that you should probably, I'm looking at, Mame River Road, right? If you're in that area, like if you're in, Strawberry Hill, like those are the areas coming down then into the eastern portions of Kingston, where the University of Technology is, where the zoo is. Those are areas that you're probably going to be wanting to avoid, as you get into, the worst of the Hope River Basin. Those are the areas you're going to want to avoid as you get into the worst of the heavy rainfall.
The good news with this storm is that while it's not moving much now, it is going to be moving faster as it progresses over the island. So yeah, the eastern part of the island is going to get a ton of rain, a ton of wind. But considering how slow it is moving now, it will be over pretty quickly for the island. Probably 5 to 6 hours, maybe 7 hours
Hmm.
of. I think the Euro even had it through the island in 4 hours. I think it's going to be a little bit slower than that. But when you think the length of extreme wind with the mudslides, with the trees, with the power lines, with everything else, you don't want this to be a long-lasting event because we talked about Dorian hitting Marsh Harbor in 2018. I mean, you had 180, 190 mile per hour winds battering that island for a day
Hmm.
because it wasn't moving. I was going to ask you earlier, if you were in Jamaica, I've never been to Jamaica. I almost went to Jamaica in 2020, but I did not because of COVID. Where would you go? Like, where would you seek refuge, if you will? And maybe it's not an easy question for us to answer.
Right.
I think Freeport. I keep thinking it's not the Bahamas. It's not Freeport, Bahamas. It's Kingston.
Right.
Montego
Yeah.
Bay is not
Yeah.
going to see any surge. I mean, that's the good news about Montego Bay. There's going to be no storm surge. You could have the worst wind, though, or really bad wind in the western part of the island.
Yeah.
Maybe like
Yeah.
the
To me,
northeast side, like Discovery Bay, like some of these northern towns.
right. Yeah. That's where I'm thinking. If you're anywhere, Port Antonio. I mean, what makes me nervous about the eastern part of the island is any sort of rainfall that is falling on the other end of the Blue Mountains that will run down through the valleys. So,
Yeah,
Port Antonio, St. Anne's Bay, uh, you know, Rio Nuevo, Ocho Rios, anywhere along the northern portion of the island probably is the safest portion to be. And then I start to think, you get to Old Harbor, May Pen, which is on the southern, south of the Blue Mountains, on the, if you're talking areas on the southern end of the island,
yeah.
that might be spared the worst of both,
Hmm.
where the heaviest rain seems to be going to be downstream the Blue Mountains. And then the worst of the core is going to be off to your west, closer to, Black River to Savannah, Lamar to Montego Bay. So those would be the two areas I would say if you are, trying to make an arrangement to move probably today,
Yeah.
at the latest tomorrow morning. Those would probably be the two areas on the island that you'd probably want to get to.
Hmm. Anywhere like Treasure Beach, White House. I mean, you don't want to be anywhere
You don't want to be
in
there.
south. You don't want to be anywhere along here, along the southwestern coast.
Mm-mm.
Um,
Yeah,
this
Black
this
River
to
is
me,
going to
this
be a
looks like.
place that's,
Remember when Laura hit New Orleans or
yeah.
like hit Louisiana and like decimated Homa and some of those coastal towns
Hmm.
southwest? Like this topographic, like this
Cameron.
satellite image reminds me a lot of like southern Louisiana. I'm
Yeah,
completely
it seems like,
speculating, but
yeah,
anywhere down, you do not want to be Mitchelltown, Hayes, Gimme Bit. Is this a town name? I mean, what a name. It looks pretty rural down in here. Um,
yeah. Anywhere along the Broad River, going
yeah.
into Black River, that entire basin should be nowhere near there.
Hmm.
nowhere near that. That because that will very likely be on the eastern, right? The eastern front, the front right quadrant will be where the worst of the storm surge will be. You're playing kind of roulette as to where exactly the eye goes at that point. If it travels 15 miles farther east, yeah, sure, you could have a blowout tide. But if you are, you play that roulette and it ends up 20 miles to your west, you're looking at probably a 15 to 20 foot storm surge. You do have a couple of these bays that are funnel shaped, which usually makes this even worse.
Right in here,
So
like you're going to get a
yeah,
crazy amount of surge. Like this could
yeah,
entirely be underwater right here.
yep,
And if it goes further
yep,
west, this is going to be all underwater right here.
yep, exactly.
And then God forbid it went closer to Kingston. I mean, you've got the I mean, you got to have a crazy
Right.
water push here and this one as well. I don't know if these bays have names. Um, doesn't look like
Yeah,
like where
I mean,
Little Goat Island is.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, pound for
Gamimi
pound.
Bit. That's the name of the town. Gamimi Bit. I love that town name.
Yeah.
I got
Yeah,
a
I mean,
college
I
buddy who
couldn't
works
even
for.
imagine.
Huh?
I couldn't even imagine, if this the front right quadrant was going into Kingston. I mean, its international airport is like on a sandbar.
Yeah.
Like you're probably not getting in and out of there for a while.
I
Your
don't know the
roommate or college classmate, what were you saying?
Yeah, my college buddy works for Fox Weather and he's in Kingston right now.
Okay.
I don't know where they're writing it out. I asked him if he's. Let me actually go read the conversation I had with him. I'm like, you worried about the aftermath? Because this is a storm that's never been this strong. Like Jamaica's never gotten hit by a storm this strong in modern times. Again, Gilbert was close. It was a borderline Cat 3, Cat 4, but it did not have the rain, the crazy rain that Melissa's going to have, especially in the eastern side of the island. He said, I'm expecting to be stuck for a while.
Mm.
Wow. Carol says Black River Treasure Beach is a concern. Yeah, Treasure Beach, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yep. Yes, exactly. Right in there.
This could be. Where did the halves have landfall? Well, the halves had landfall pretty much on Treasure Beach. Okay, yeah. Wherever the Eyewall comes ashore, you're going to have wind gusts probably over 150 miles per hour. Would you say, Garrett? Over 150?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yeah,
whether that's
I
Treasure
would.
Beach, whether that's Alligator Pond, whether that's Black River, whether that's White House or New Hope. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. I mean, anywhere right now, anywhere the corridor from, Portland Cottage to me, if I Portland Cottage to Black River to Savannah Lamar, like that looks to me like, you know, those are areas I wouldn't want to be because depending on 50, 60 mile shifts,
Mm-hmm.
that seems like that will be the area where the front right quadrant would go in. If I'm Kingston, Spanish Town, Old Harbor, those areas, it seems really bad. It seems as of now, this constant kind of drift to the south and west might spare you a 20-foot storm surge. That doesn't mean a 5 to 10 foot storm surge isn't going to be something that is, very formidable as this thing makes its move northeastward. So
Yeah.
those are kind of the areas right now that seem to be ground zero, if you're wanting to call it that.
Treasure Beach was damaged by Beryl. Yeah. How close did Beryl come to Jamaica? I mean, it
There,
went
yeah,
south of it, right? But it still got scraped.
yeah,
Kingston,
that's
where should people be evacuated from now? Definitely anywhere close to the southern coast. Get away from the southern coastline, especially when you see how much low-lying area there is. I mean, if you can get out of Kingston, I would. I don't know the island and never. I've been to Aruba. I've been to Curse. I've been to 2 of the 3 ABC islands. I've never been to Jamaica though. I don't know what these northern towns are like. I know the airport's closed. So you obviously
it
can't
seems
get
like to
out
me if
by
if you
air.
can get to like Mandeville, um,
Where's Mandeville?
yeah, Mandeville, it kind of central part of the island, uh, south of
Oh, I
the
see it. Yeah.
cockpit country,
What a name.
Mandeville, yeah,
They got
Maypen,
KFC in Mandeville. And they got
yeah,
Wendy's.
yeah, there's a lot of KFCs, Domino's, the Yard Bar Grill in Maypen. It seems like that corridor to me seems the safest. Um, Again, a lot of this is dependent on like runoff, and though that becomes very valley dependent. Where is the localized higher elevation? Are you down near a creek? Are you down near a stream? Inland, that is what you're going to want to avoid. That is where the worst of that's where you see those pictures of cars floating down and mudslides. All those tend to be in valleys. So if you're in a localized area, making sure you just kind of know where the higher ground and higher elevation is relative, to the creeks and streams and the runoffs down through the valleys.
Yeah. Oops. I know this video doesn't stop. Like, it loops. It doesn't let me stop it. Thank you, Karen.
I've been going to
Appreciate
I've been
being
going
here.
to the King. Yeah, appreciate you being here. Stay safe.
In
We'll be.
Mandeville. Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be in it. Again, if you live there, you know what the topography's like. You know what the rivers like to do in terms of streams and runoff, and if they're out of their banks. I actually didn't know that storm surge forecasts aren't issued by the Hurricane Center if it's not a domestic landfall. Like Steertown, I feel like somewhere up here would be good, but looking at the topography, like you got some really high, you got some 500-foot hills and I wouldn't call those mountains. I mean, the mountains are in the eastern part of the country. You don't have a lot of room for this water to run off as it heads down the hills to the north.
Yeah. So if you're in Mandeville, that's probably to me again not knowing the localized topography, but just being far enough away from shore. It'll be nasty. It'll be flooding, a lot of wind. Doesn't seem like a super tree lined area, especially downtown. I would have to think like if you decide, hey, I'm gonna go stay at the Mandeville Hotel near the Mandeville Regional Airport or Regional Hospital, and you have two major hospitals right there. Those tend to be built in pretty safe areas, right?
Yeah.
And the infrastructure tends to be a little bit more reliable in those areas. And so I'd say if you're in downtown, you're probably going to be in a pretty relatively safe spot. You talk about New Orleans, right? New Orleans is a very dangerous place hurricane wise. There are places that are very like you're not going to get it. You're not going to die in New Orleans if you're in the right spot, right? So everywhere has its places, and it typically ends up being the downtown of the area. A lot of resources, a lot of that's where the kind of the emergency services would be. So I'd stay less rural, stay closer to kind of a populated area. And if you're in Mandeville, you'd seem to be in a better area than some other places.
Somebody asked, any chance of a change of direction? I was going to say no, but then the H Wharf is like, hey, there's a chance. There's a chance. I mean, if it meanders west enough here, it can end up hooking, instead of going like this. I hate the satellite's moving. Hold on, let me pause this. Instead of the storm going like this, it could, if it somehow meanders, if it doesn't feel the trough in time, it could do something like that. Could. I'd say that's about a 5% chance, 5 to 10% chance of the eye not making landfall somewhere on Jamaica.
Yeah, and there's still enough.
Well, I mean, that's a question, unfortunately, I can't answer. I don't know I'm sure the Jamaican government's got a plan.
I mean, there's enough members of the European ensembles as well that still, take this far enough west where there is the rain, you're not missing the rain. The rain is going to be an issue no matter what. It's a matter of, do you get the core and a 50-mile wide swath of places that are uninhabitable.
That's a
it's
lot
been like
of
that.
members that
and it's been like that. Yeah, it's been like that too. I mean, it's had 50% missing since day one, while the GFS had it east of Puerto Rico for 5 days.
Yeah, well, the GFS is a joke.
Yeah,
that is
awful
interesting.
model.
Maybe good. I mean, we'll watch that trend carefully, because that would be
We'll tune in. Tune in tomorrow.
What you don't want to have happen is that the eye comes through here. Like, it's going to take a hard northeast turn at some point. You don't want the eye to come through here and then just scrape the entire coast, do something diabolical like that, because then you go right through Montego Bay.
Right. Yeah.
Um, if I
And
had, if I had, a, I think it's going to do
you can
something like
get
this,
weird.
but
Yeah. You can get weird, especially if the eye stays very small, like kind of cycloidal loops, right, that are very terrain driven.
yeah,
So, if you think of the frictional effects, I mean, say it's west of the island and winds are kind of getting cut off from the south, you actually could get kind of a yanking to the east. That's why you see like on the west coast of Florida, for example, you really just never see hurricanes as they're moving south to north, stay parallel and go into Tampa. They tend to really kind of get pulled in. A lot of that due to the frictional effects. Charlie is a great example. Charlie, everybody thought it was going to Tampa and it goes to Fort Myers,
Ian did the
because you
same
kind of get
thing.
those.
Yeah.
Ian did the same exact thing. Yes, yeah, that's why I mean, even Milton to an extent. Now, Milton was a completely different animal and where it was coming from, but it never gets as far north and treks as far west as you think. And a lot of that's due to frictional effects. That's why storms south of Haiti and north of Haiti sometimes just get yanked into it or yanked down into it, or the island of Hispaniola just because of the elevation. So, to your point, Dave, if this does just miss the western part of the island, you could see a quick jerk to the east and then kind of a resuming of its normal track due to the frictional effects. That will be something to monitor.
Hmm. I wish this was not. Let me pull up the SSTs. How much loss of life will there be in Kingston? Yeah, we can't predict that. I will say with Gilbert, there weren't that many fatalities. I mean, all things considered, I think there were only 40 fatalities with Gilbert. Might want to double check me on that. I'll just look it up here. Hurricane Gilbert.
And loss of life is, I mean, it really is dependent on the preparation.
Yeah.
You know, some islands in the Caribbean are much more uh, built to handle infrastructure wise stuff like this than others. Obviously, anytime Haiti gets impacted by an event like this, even tropical storms, I mean, the loss is catastrophic. Jamaica, especially, learning more and more just about, even through aerials, seeing these towns and cities kind of more built in a way to handle, you know, something like this infrastructure wide. You're not getting like 10 buildings washed down a river, per se. It's very hard to say what the number will be loss wise, but
Yeah.
your chances tend to be better. I would say that in Kingston it just really will depend on how bad the freshwater flooding is in those areas that are most prone, if they heeded warning or there was warning given to kind of get to higher ground, prior to the worst of the flooding coming through.
Yeah, Elliot's saying around a month ago it rained for about 3 hours and there was major flooding in the corporate area. Assuming that's around
Mm,
downtown or wherever there's lots of buildings, streets, etc. Yeah, if it only rains for
yeah.
3 hours and you've got major flooding, I'm assuming maybe you get a few inches of rain out of that. Well, how about a few dozen inches of rain potentially in eastern
Yeah.
Jamaica? If you are writing it out, I will say this. I remember what Brian Norcross said a lot to us in college. If you're writing it out anywhere where you're going to have winds over 100 miles per hour, anywhere near the eye is going to come ashore, put as many walls as you can between you and the outside. You do not want to be around windows. If you start feeling the house breaking, if the roof is coming off, if the siding is coming off, take the mattress off your bed and put it over your head. That saved a lot of lives at Hurricane Andrew in Miami in 1992. By people literally putting mattresses over their heads from not getting hit by flying debris, etc. Andrew was a Cat 5 when it hit Miami. That was the last Cat 5 to hit the U.S. until Michael in 2018. So, Garrett, you'll be with us till the top of the hour, another 5, 6, 7 minutes. I'll take us till at
Yep.
least 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock Jamaican local time, and we'll see where we're at. After that, Hurricane
And
hunters
then
on their way. They'll probably be there in the eye in about an hour. We'll stay on the
yeah.
air until that at least, probably.
And we are live. I know you said tomorrow afternoon. Um, any morning runs or any morning updates, or everything will be kind of shorts and YouTube videos tomorrow morning?
Tomorrow. That's a good question. Tomorrow morning, I got to get I gotta run. I gotta do a couple things. There'll be a
Hmm.
video out in the morning for sure, but we'll have a
Yep.
live stream in the afternoon. It's
Okay.
kind of a. We're gonna be live like all day Tuesday as the storm is
Yep.
actually, of course, going over the island. Tomorrow will
Hmm.
be kind of another prep stream from about 2 to 7 maybe afternoon into the evening.
Yep.
Um, and then Tuesday we're on the air all day. I'm living like
Yeah.
14 miles outside Montego Bay, and I wash and hang my clothes out today. Everything's dry. Very beautiful day so far. I mean, it is.
Nice.
That in the northwest corner of the island, there's nothing. There's Montego
Yep.
Bay. I mean, you
You
got a few
wouldn't know.
shoulders east, but you wouldn't know that there's a hurricane about 250 miles to your southeast. A hurricane that's churning at winds out of 145 miles per hour.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if you're, I mean, you're preparing tomorrow and you're wanting, it's interesting. The 18Z GFS actually moved a little bit farther west. Um, but you move, you're thinking about moving spots or whatever tomorrow, and you're needing one more day of information. Definitely tuning in here, tuning into Dave. And I'll be in intermittently or as much as I can as well, breaking this down. But I'm not really sure how many American sources are going to go live stream coverage for an entire afternoon prior to the storm, and then the entire duration of the storm for something in the Caribbean. So we will have this covered from every single angle you can think of, I would think.
Yeah, and this is an interesting trend on the American model here. A western landfall, kind of in the realm of Savannah, Lamar, Bluefields, White House, kind of in the southwestern corner of the island. That would be better for anywhere east of Milk River, Hayes, Kingston. It'd be better for places like that. But that means a whole lot more wind, a whole lot more rain, and a whole lot more storm surge for both the southwestern coast, and then a ton of rain, a ton of wind for places like Montego Bay. Yeah, I've done
Yeah.
that. No problem. I'm in North Carolina, and Garrett is in Texas, Carol. So 2 states, they get a lot of hurricanes, the United States. The other storm, Garrett, that made landfall this year was Chantal in North Carolina
Hmm.
back in
Yeah.
July.
Yeah, Chantal, and then the second most impactful event for the U.S. this year was the remnants of Barry, which
Oh,
played a
yeah.
major role in the Texas Hill Country flooding, which was a very catastrophic event here locally.
Hmm.
Everybody knew someone who had either been directly or indirectly impacted by the loss of life there. Especially in such a kind of a drier area typically, but very flood prone at times. So, and Dave, actually, you can with the GFS and the European and some of these global models, there is a greater Antilles zoom in view on
Oh,
Weather
yeah.
Bell, and so you can kind of get, yeah, there you go, you can get a little closer given the picture. And you can see, I mean, if it takes that track, you're going to get wind in Kingston. Um, but if you're away from the coast, it won't be horrible. It'll be very, kind of rain band driven. If it's not raining hard, there's not a lot of downward transfer of momentum to bring the wind down to the surface due to convection and kind of turbulence. It'll be gusting 25 to 35 in those rain bands, is when you'll get gusts 50 to 75 miles per hour if you're not in the direct core of the hurricane.
Yeah. And this is the metric system. So we're going to use the metric system. You could see up to 1,000 millimeters of rain in some of these areas, at least 900. I think the GFS had a local max of 923. Just a ton of rain. That's almost a foot of rain, or that it would be about a foot, or it'd be 3 feet, about a yard of rain. Why can't everybody just use the same system? Kilometers, miles. It's always got to be something. How high
Yeah.
above sea level is safe? Well, Gilbert, I just read this. Gilbert had storm surge of 19 feet in 1988 in Jamaica. And here's a picture of, we're going to see a lot of this by Tuesday, or by really Wednesday, once the storm's out of here. I would say get above 20 feet, at least above 20 feet above sea level if you're on the southern coast. The northern coast is not going to be as big of a deal because the storm's motion is going to bring water actually out of areas close to the coast. That's going to push it towards Cuba. Eastern Cuba. I mean, we haven't talked about Cuba much, but Eastern Cuba is going to get smacked. Really, really not good either.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be bad there. It's going to be bad in kind of the southeast portions
The
of the
Bahamas.
Bahamas. Turks
Yeah.
and Caicos still not totally out of it. I mean, obviously, anytime you get any sort of rain band features going into Haiti, it's going to be bad, and it's already been bad and will continue to be bad there. Um, so it's
Yeah.
coming as a
Costa
category
Rica,
five. Yeah.
Santiago de Cuba. Yeah.
Yeah, very likely this. Like I was just from a meteorological perspective, what we've seen the last several years. Anytime you're getting hurricanes on their kind of initial departure, if you will, in kind of interaction with a trough, not to get too in depth, and starting to move to the north northeast, things just kind of align for a secondary maximum, even sometimes using some baroclinic forces, which is kind of non-tropical forces, really kind of aiding in the tropical process. So my guess is that this, the over under, I'd say, Dave, is it's probably going to be 9-10 millibars, 9-15 millibars, close near landfall. That's what I would place it at, and probably 155, 160 mile per hour winds at the
Mm-hmm.
surface, with gusts, potentially higher. And again, those will, be felt directly on shore. You will not feel those winds if you're farther inland, but fortunately, a lot of the population is pretty close to shore in a lot of these areas.
Somebody is it still coming as a Category 5? Most likely. Yeah.
Saint Cat, and then we got a gusts are becoming more frequent in Saint Catherine.
St. Cat is that parish? Is that a St. Catherine parish? I think. Or yeah, St. Catherine. It's to the west of Kingston. It's like Spanish Town. Yeah. Yeah, the winds are going to be steadily coming up the next 12 to 24 hours, and then they'll kind of plateau in that 50 km/h range through tomorrow afternoon. And then by Monday night, the winds are going to really start to pick up. How long will it take to pass? About 5 or 6 hours total time through the country. But I mean, if it does go west and it takes a path more like this, that could be 2 hours as opposed to this being 5 hours. So a lot less land if it takes a far western path. I mean, Garrett, I'm pretty confident to say it's not going to make landfall in or east of Kingston.
I I feel pretty good about that as well right now, which is obviously a very good development, relative to what we were thinking, you know, 24 at least, or relative to what the models were thinking 24 hours ago. I'm not sure I ever bought that it was going to be that far east, but regardless, again, I think Kingston flooding, very heavy wind gusts, strong wind gusts in bands. I'm also concerned. I also am getting concerned a bit about like kind of the water spout and tornado potential on the eastern part of the island. That is something that will be a concern. Given kind of intermittent
Yeah,
shots of
all
dry
these,
air.
all
Yeah,
these right here.
absolutely. You're gonna get spinners coming right up through there. So that is probably my biggest concern. One of my biggest concerns, minus the core, kind of staying off to their west there.
Yeah, I don't want to let people's guards down in Kingston. I mean, even if you don't get 120 mile per hour wind gusts, you're still going to get at least a half a meter of rain. Some spots can get up to a whole meter of rain. Um, it's moving around 12 miles per hour. No, it's moving way slower than that. It's moving at 5,
Three.
west at 5. It has picked up a little bit, and it's going to continue to pick up, especially on Tuesday. By Tuesday, it's going to be moving to the northeast at about 15. There'll be a tornado threat on the island all night Monday night, into Tuesday morning. Even like some of these bands.
Yeah, especially in south, more than likely south of uh the Blue Mountains, south of the Blue Mountains. North of the Blue Mountains is going to be difficult to maintain. That's the eastern part of the island.
Oh yeah, yeah, like
Difficult
down in
difficult to
here.
maintain. Yeah, you have elevation north of 7,000 feet, in that area. And so if you're in Portland, Port Antonio, not necessarily concerned about the tornado threat, but anywhere from Morant Bay to Kingston to Spanish Town, that is a concern for sure. And so, even if like you said, even if you're not getting sustained winds of 120 miles per hour for the entire time, gusts for 5 to 10 seconds will do the job just as much. So
Yeah,
preparing for at least Category 3 winds, whether it's instantaneous or continuous, is very important, as you go through your kind of process the next 36 hours leading into landfall.
indeed. The western trend is good in terms of wind impacts for the eastern part of the island, but still, most of the rain is going to be on the eastern side of the storm. I mean, you don't have a whole lot of rain. The center is right here. You got rain all the way back to Haiti, east of the center, but then you have a whole lot of, not much, west of the center. So you always call the right front quadrant of a storm the dirty side, because that's where the ocean is getting shoved into the coastline, storm surge. Hurricanes rotate counterclockwise, which pulls water away from the coast on the left side of the storm, but then it throws water into the coast on the east side of the storm. Why does a hurricane take a right turn in a day or two? Let's tell you why. It's a good question. So, it starts to gain latitude on Tuesday thanks to this area of low pressure across the mid-Atlantic of the United States. And then this trough, big bowling ball cutoff low from the mid-levels of the atmosphere, 500 millibars, digs down into the Mississippi Valley. There it is by Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. And that is what kind of slingshots Melissa to the northeast. For a couple days, it looked like this could be a threat to the East Coast, at least a low-end threat to the East Coast. But for that to happen, you'd need a big area of high pressure over Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, and then this area of low pressure to get blocked by this high. But that's not going to happen. This high moves off to the east. This area of low pressure moves off to the east as well, and it takes Melissa maybe towards portions of Nova Scotia, but not towards the United States, which is good.
Is Grand Cayman safe? Yes, I feel okay that the Cayman Islands are going to be okay in this setup.
Looked a little scary
Probably
for the Caymans for a couple days, but luckily
Yeah.
for the Caymans,
Yeah.
maybe an outer band on Tuesday, but nothing like with Jamaica. We'll see. Be some big time gusts, about 30 to 40 mile per hour, 60 kilometer per hour gusts. Newfoundland, not
yeah.
Newfoundland. It's a great word, though. It's a great province. Is it a Canadian province, Garrett?
We'll have to get our developer Jamie Canada on here
Yeah.
to give us some insight. I can't remember if he's Newfoundland or Nova Scotia, or if that's the same thing. I'm not sure. But
We'll get Jamie
David-
Iyer on here. Maybe he's watching
Yeah.
right now.
maybe. I
When
will.
we'll reach Jamaica tomorrow night. Tomorrow night. You got to go, Garrett?
I gotta jump.
Okay.
Everyone
I'm
who's
not
on
leaving.
here,
We're not leaving. Garrett's leaving.
the questions are Dave's in for the long haul. I will be on intermittently, through the next couple days.
Yeah.
Providing support to Dave however I can. Like and subscribe, right, Dave? Is that how you do it on this?
I haven't seen
yeah,
it. Like, subscribe, download the Flash app, and yeah.
Yeah, but this especially we want to be able to support and help and give, obviously in the US everything's very US centric, but we want to be able to give as much insight for anybody who's getting impacted by these storms. And fortunately this will likely be the last one of the hurricane season, but the questions, the feedback in the channel is paramount to this conversation, right? And people know in Jamaica know these localized areas better than we do. Point us to it, ask us questions, and we can give as detailed of response as possible. And so yeah, we'll Dave, you keep it running here, and I'm looking forward to helping you out in the next few days.
Sounds good. We're gonna do some more analysis here and get some sleep. We're gonna need it the next few days.
Sounds good. All right, everybody.
Yes, sir. All right.
See you, Dave.
All right, so behind me over my shoulders, see Jamaica doing a really good job. I am staying on medicine, believe it or not. See Jamaica, I donated to them earlier today. They're doing a great job. I don't know if it's just one guy that's running it. They're providing live coverage or live cameras. So we've got them behind us. We'll see how long they stay up, how long internet and power stays up on Tuesday, but we will use those. This is the Kingston Harbor, and this is a cycling batch of cameras. I need to do some more work behind the scenes of getting one to stay in there or selecting one. But anyways, is Portland safe? I'm assuming it's not Portland, Maine. There's a lot of, or Portland, Oregon. I don't know where Portland, Jamaica is. Oh, on the east, oh, the Portland Parish. No, I mean, Portland's going to get a ton of rain. Probably the highest rainfall totals on the island of Jamaica will be in the eastern part of the island towards Portland Parish, towards, what's the parish south? St. Thomas Parish. You see where this bullseye is? It's literally in Portland Parish. Up to 40 inches of rain, and what is that? About 900 plus millimeters of rain. I'm not good with the metric system, but the Hurricane Center's here, and they're doing the translation right there. Upper left-hand corner, it's got 145 mile per hour maximum sustained winds right now. It's a Cat 4. It probably will turn into a Cat 5 tonight. There is Recon, a brave set of souls that are going on a Hurricane Hunter mission. They are now just south of Cuba. There they are, and they're on their way to see how strong Melissa has gotten. Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island make up the maritime region, but each is its own province. You learn something new every day. I knew like Alberta and British Columbia, I knew those were provinces, but the mountain's going to be a major factor. Yeah, no doubt about that. And we're going to have landslides, mudslides, because the heaviest rain is going to fall in the eastern side of the storm. So here's right around landfall time, late morning on Tuesday. There's the eye right here. Somebody was asking about the Turks and Caicos. So the Turks and Caicos are not that far west of Jamaica. Not seeing much at all. But look at all the rain, all of the rain bands on the eastern side of the center of circulation. That's why the rainfall forecast is so high on the eastern side of the mountain, or the eastern side of the island where the highest mountains are, and how there's such a sharp cutoff here from east to west with the highest rainfall totals. Maybe somebody on the far western part of the island only sees 6 inches of rain, and yet on the opposite side of the island could pick up 6 times that. It's crazy. Everybody in Jamaica will be greatly affected. Yeah, just because the storm is likely going to pass right through the center of the island. And the island, I don't know how wide the island is. I guess I could look that up. I know there's about 3 million people, like 2.8 million people in Jamaica. How wide is Jamaica? Okay. So about 150 miles or 240 kilometers west to east. Got it. It looks longer than that. A lot of the eastern parishes, That's what's the most concerning, Adira. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that name right. That's what's most concerning about this, is that A, you've had a ton of rain already, and B, the most rain is going to fall where there's the highest mountains and where you've had the most rain. I thought they were going to sit over the island. No, it's not going to sit over the island for 2 days. Luckily, it's not. It's going to be in and out relatively quickly. Compared to how slowly it's moving now, it's moving at, let's pull up the advisory here from the Hurricane Center. Oh, it's in the top left corner of the screen. It's moving at 5 miles per hour now, but I think we can look at the forecast discussion, how fast it'll be moving. No. So they expect this to be a Cat 5 at landfall. 160 mile per hour winds, that's a Category 5. They usually talk somewhere about how it's going to be picking up, like forward speed. I could do the math and figure out the jump from lat long to lat long, but I'm not going to do that. It's going to be faster. Yeah, I mean, it depends what your definition of relative is. I think the hurricane model, so it has landfall at 18Z, 1 p.m. local time on Tuesday. I think that's a little bit late. But and then it's off the island in about 5 hours, 5 to 6 hours. As Garrett and I talked about, Hurricane Dorian sat over the Bahamas for about 2.5 days. So it's all a matter of perspective. Category does not determine how fast it moves. That's a matter of the outside steering currents, what the hurricane feels in the upper levels of the atmosphere to help steer it. Yeah. I don't know what the rain totals are already. I know that we'll go back to the radar here. Well, the radar is also looping in the upper right, but here's the blown up version of this. You got a big rain band there just off the coast on the southeast side. But in Montego Bay, there's, maybe it's sprinkling in or just east of Montego Bay. Montego Bay. You had some bands occasionally all day pushing through. There's a heavier band just offshore that's trying to make a proverbial quote-unquote landfall. Yeah, you can see the tree moving around. I mean, the winds are picking up. It's not too crazy yet, though. I don't know if you'll be able to get those cameras in Cuba. We'll see about that. Let's see where the hurricane hunters are. They're on their way. Hopefully Kingston doesn't get the crazy wind. I will say that. I also don't need this headset on anymore since Garrett's not on here. Let's take this off. What is making this such a big storm, like intensity-wise? Like, why is it so strong? We'll show you right here. It's because of how warm the ocean water is. See these hot reds, hot pinks right here? This is ocean water, 85, 90 degrees. Hurricanes are steam engines, to a degree. They get their energy by the ocean water. The warmer the water, the stronger a hurricane can be. Usually, when hurricanes sit over the same area, I didn't want to open it. When they sit over the same area and churn over the water over and over again, that usually cools the water and makes the hurricane stop strengthening and eventually weaken. But the problem is there's so much depth to the warmth of the water off Jamaica. So when you go down in depth in the ocean, the water is still warm. So the hurricane has more warm water to cycle through to continue to strengthen off of. And that's really the worst part. Yeah. Like if this storm was, let's say this storm was parked in the Gulf, like right there, right off the coast of Florida. If it was just parked there, it would weaken within probably a day or so because it would feel colder water, 22 degrees Celsius below the surface, and that's an automatic weakener for a hurricane, I should say. How far inland Kingston is safe? I mean, I would go as inland as you can. I mean, the problem with that is I don't know exactly how all the topography goes, but you're going to have mudslides, landslides. You're going to have, I would stay away from the steepest slopes. I know the highest mountains. Where did I have this pulled up? Yeah, the topography. I mean, the highest mountains are in the eastern part of the country. You still got some pretty high hills and borderline mountains in the northern part of the country as well. So, yeah, landfall Tuesday morning, probably, I think the Hurricane Center said about 8 a.m. Eastern, so 7 a.m. local time. Local time, Jamaica on Thursday morning. But conditions will deteriorate. So the bands, the outer bands starting to move in tonight. There are the outer bands right here. And then we move this forward. They actually try to stay offshore for most of the night. I mean, the worst is here, just offshore. But still, some patches of heavy rain in the eastern half of the island. And then by Monday night into Tuesday, here's where the bands start actually moving in. This is when the wind starts picking up about 9 p.m. tomorrow. rain, wind continues to pick up. This is the middle of the night, Monday night into Tuesday morning. And then here's your landfall. This model has a little bit later. This is 1 p.m. Tuesday local time. I would gamble it's going to be sooner than that. I think it's going to be Tuesday morning. Yeah, I mean, you can make that argument that nowhere is safe. Usually it's, you want to avoid the storm surge, you want to get to a higher elevation. You want to get to at least 20 feet above sea level, I would say, especially if you're east of the center. If you're in a bungalow, to be honest, I've never, A, been to Jamaica, B, know what a bungalow, it all depends how it's constructed. If you don't think it can handle 100 plus mile per hour winds, then I would probably evacuate. Yeah. What happens after Jamaica? Well, let's find out. Hits Jamaica. Let's zoom this out. Hits Jamaica, hits eastern Cuba, hits the southeastern Bahamas. There it is right there. Might scrape the Turks and Caicos. Steered away from the U.S. It looks like it's going to miss eastern Canada. Could scrape far east. Is this, I don't remember if that's Nova Scotia or Newfoundland. I got to brush up on my eastern Canadian provinces. Even if it doesn't directly hit far eastern provinces, you're going to get some heavy rain, some strong winds. And then Europe, I haven't even looked at Europe. That's the wrong one. I have not touched Europe for this storm yet. Okay, here it is right here, next Saturday. It kind of merges with a different area of low pressure and turns into the same squally, cloudy, windy weather for Great Britain, Ireland, etc. Yeah, you got to take shelter. I think Tash kind of hit the nail on the head there. If it is concrete, that definitely helps. Concrete certainly helps. The glass, the problem with glass is if you get debris, winds themselves may not break the glass, but if you get a piece of your neighbor's house to fly through the glass, that's what can break the glass and ultimately, potentially, compromise the structure of your bungalow. The guarantee push over Jamaica, I would say there's a 90% chance that Melissa makes landfall in Jamaica. The only model that thinks the eye does not go over the island, here's the, there we go. Here's the Hurricane Forecast System A model, high resolution hurricane model, making landfall just west of the center point of the country, which would be, what would that be, around Black River, Treasure Beach area. There is one, the Hurricane Weather Research Forecast model, the HWRF model, that actually keeps it just to the west here. This model is the western outlier. There are no other models that have it missing the island, the eye at least, completely to the west. So I'm not buying it at this point. It's something to watch. And if we can avoid the worst from hitting Jamaica, I mean, that would be great. No matter what, it is going to hit Cuba. You can't completely miss Cuba at this point, and you can't completely miss the southeastern Bahamas. So even if there's a miracle and Jamaica gets spared, however, the problem in this scenario is that the storm's not going to weaken. If it doesn't hit land, the storm is not going to weaken, at least not considerably. So that means even stronger wind, and in this setup, actually you could get some storm surge in Montego Bay as well. I don't want to talk about that too much because that is, again, the outlier. This is probably what's going to happen. It's still south of the island by this point tomorrow, and then it feels the pull of that cold front moving across the U.S., and that brings it north, brings it poleward, and as it gains latitude. I would remove everything you can from your backyard. I mean, at least any furniture, 100%. Bring everything inside, because then that just acts as flying debris, as like a flying weapon to a degree. So, yeah, tomorrow night, Cheyenne. Tomorrow night. Will there be thunder and lightning? Usually there's some thunder and lightning in the Eyewall and in some of the outer bands, but thunder and lightning is just about the least of our concerns with Melissa. Cameron, it's possible. It's unlikely, but it is possible. The Hurricane Center cone does have a tiny sliver here where it could miss the island. It could. We'll know tomorrow whether it's going to miss the island or not. Even if the eye misses the island, there's still going to be really bad wind. And again, it's not going to weaken. If it misses the island to the west, that would actually be worse for Montego Bay. It'd be good for Jamaica, or for Kingston, it'd be great for Kingston, but it would be much worse for Montego Bay. Again, I don't want to talk about that too much until there's actually a legitimate chance it could miss the island of the west, higher than just 10%. Hit the southeastern Bahamas, riprap. Tomorrow night, landfall. Probably Tuesday morning, right around sunrise or just after sunrise Tuesday morning. The southeastern Bahamas. So places like Nassau aren't going to get hit, but the West Indies, you're talking maybe the Turks and Caicos, the northern Turks and Caicos. Anywhere northwest of here, we'll call it. I don't know I forget what all the island names are. So this is Long Island. Long Island is not in play. Crooked Island in the Bahamas is in play. These are the most populated Bahamian islands are to the north, like Nassau. Nassau is obviously the biggest island, or New Providence is the name of the island. Nassau is, of course, the big city on New Providence. Been to Nassau twice? No, once. But Santiago de Cuba is going to get hit hard. Guantanamo. I know the U.S. government either pulled a bunch of people out of Guantanamo Bay or they did something there in eastern Cuba. But eastern Cuba, Santiago de Cuba is probably the biggest city in eastern Cuba, and it's going to get hit pretty badly from this storm. Should I make this radar tab a little bit bigger? The bay, or the harbor, Kingston Harbor, actually doesn't look that bad for now. The question is going to be, how long do these feeds stay up until we lose either power or internet, whichever comes first. So if I'll talk about this real quick. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's a pretty unlikely solution. It's a pretty unlikely outcome. If it does miss the island, number one, if the eye misses the island. So you can see it here. It barely misses the western coast right there. I mean, barely. You're talking about 10 miles off the coast. So number one, when the eye doesn't come ashore, the storm center, the eye, the engine, still has the fuel to tap into the ocean, the warm ocean. It's not going over land. It's not going over the mountains that can disrupt the circulation. And then at this point, since it can't weaken, you've got the strongest winds that are actually going to be in Montego Bay right there because the eye is closer to Montego Bay at this point. This model runs at 3-hour steps. I wish I could go back 1 hour before this. This is 1 p.m. Tuesday. This is 10 a.m. Tuesday. I want to see like noon Tuesday. But then you get the storm surge. See all these lines coming west or northwest to southeast here? That would push water into Montego Bay at this point. But again, that would not happen if what the other three main hurricane models think is going to happen, which is a landfall generally on the southwestern side of the island. Yeah, not helpful, Tash, for the strength to be increasing. Not helpful at all. The next update from the Hurricane Center will come in an hour and a half at 8 p.m. And we are still waiting on the hurricane hunters to get there. They're close. They're south of Cuba. There's Jamaica right there. So the hurricane hunter is getting close to the storm, and we'll get info on whether or not she is strengthening, Melissa's strengthening. It looks like a Cat 5 on satellite, to be quite honest. The eye is completely concentric, or concentric as if there's two eye walls. But percent chance direct hit Jamaica, 90%. You could probably argue 95%. Tammy, you said it, not me. Hugo in '89, yeah, that was a bad one here in North Carolina and in Charleston. I think Charleston's where it made landfall. Yeah, Hugo is kind of it's kind of like how Gilbert is the benchmark for a storm in Jamaica. Hugo, in a lot of ways, is the benchmark of a storm in the Carolinas in the United States. What else should we look at? I mean, we're kind of just waiting for the hurricane hunters to get in there and see what they're saying. It's funny you mentioned Maria. There have been some folks online that have been saying, "Oh, well, Melissa is Jamaica's Maria." It's possible. I mean, Maria was a little bit stronger. Maria was also moving faster, so it didn't have quite the rainfall that Melissa is going to have. But, I mean, no matter how you cut the cake, this is a horrendous situation. It's still going to be bad in Kingston. Even if that unlikely outcome happens, you're still going to get a couple feet of rain, at least a half a meter of rain. I feel like, I don't know if I should be using the metric system or the imperial United States system. I think the standard in Jamaica is the metric system. I'm not very good at the metric system, especially for millimeters, but try my best. What did the European AI model have here? I wanted to look at this. Yeah, so that's very similar. You see the L right there, right around Treasure Island, right? Or Treasure Beach, Black River. If you're anywhere here in the southwestern corner of the island, you got to get out. You got to either head east, head north. Garrett and I talked earlier. We don't know a whole lot about the northeastern side of Jamaica, but folks up here could have the best outcome, at least in terms of the wind. The rain, the mudslides, the landslides, those are very difficult, if not impossible to predict. We can tell you how much rain's going to fall, but we can't predict what exactly outcome that rain's going to is going to have. Because of the steering currents, DeMario. We talked about those earlier. We could talk about them again, but there's a upper level long wave trough that's moving across the United States. That is what's making Melissa make that northeastward turn. I see what you did there, LFB. I see what you did there. I have not seen any flooding on the cameras yet. It hasn't really been raining that hard there today. I've been watching these cameras most of the day, and we've had the radar up both in the top right-hand corner of the screen here and then also right here. We'll give this a refresh. Most of the rain has been staying off to the southeast. If there's been any flooding, it's probably been southwest of Kingston, down towards maybe Old Harbor, towards Portmore. I know somebody earlier was talking about Portmore. I don't know if there's anybody here now from anywhere southwest of Kingston in is that Clarendon? Clarendon Parish? What is it? Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for being here, DeMario. Yeah, it's just because of, I'll show it again. It's because of the long wave trough moving across the U.S. So let's turn on 500 millibar height. So here is Melissa right here, moving across Jamaica. So it's moving north is because it feels this upper level trough. See this dip in the colors right here, the dip in the browns? Anytime a hurricane feels that, that's an automatic jump to the north. It doesn't feel that right now. It's actually stuck between an area of high pressure here and an area of high pressure here. That's why it's barely moving, is because it's basically stuck in a puddle and it doesn't really know what to do. But there's enough steering currents upper level east to west. That's why it's moving east to west. And then eventually this ridge completely breaks down. It retrogrades back to the west. This ridge is still here, and you've got this long wave trough right here. This is an automatic northeast turn. Again, we talked about it. It looked like this could have been a nightmare for the east coast of the U.S., but that is not the case. And looks like, hopefully, Melissa's going to miss Canada. That would be good, too. Could it get weaker while stuck? That's a good question. Usually they can. The problem is there's so much warm water. There's so much depth of the warmth. That's been the explainer phrase, if you will, the past couple of days. It's not just the surface water is warm. You go down 50 feet in the ocean, it's still warm. That's what this model shows, tropical cyclone heat potential. So the depth of the warmth of the water off the charts here in the Caribbean, just off the charts. I mean, south of Jamaica right here, it is literally off the charts. Yeah. Chin Chin, it all depends. Clarendon. Okay, good to know for tomorrow. Thank you. It all depends on the water, the depth of the warm water. We said, you know, if there was a hurricane in the Gulf, if there was a hurricane, if let's say Melissa was moving this way, it cannot, it meteorologically can't because of the steering currents across the U.S. It literally can't. Actually, if Melissa was here, it would be moving this way, but it's not. It's down here. Anyways, if you had a hurricane here, it would not last for very long because there's not much depth of warmth to the water there at all. Hurricanes are steam engines. Their fuel, their gasoline, if you will, is the warm water below them. And if they don't have that gasoline, they can't strengthen or keep themselves together. Clarendon. Clarendon? We got a couple different pronunciations here. If I had to pick a city off the map right now, I would pick Treasure Beach. If I had to, if you put a gun to my head and said, hey, pick a city where Melissa's going to make landfall, I would say somewhere between Treasure Beach and White House. Somewhere along here. If I had to make a prediction right now. It is bath water. Yeah, it's borderline hot tub water to the south of Jamaica. Clarendon. Got it. Measurement of temperature. This is this is kilojoules per square meter. Kilojoules per square meter. Joule is a unit of energy. How much energy is available to a tropical cyclone to strengthen or weaken? Clarendon, says Christopher. And then we got a Clarendon. You guys are confusing me. I'm going to have to go like eeny, meeny, miny, mo here and pick one. Den, not Don. I thought it was, when I first saw it, I thought it was, what did I call it? I thought it was Clarendon. That was my guess, Clarendon. But if it's Clarendon, we'll call it Clarendon. Don't emphasize the O on Don. Now we've got a fight on how to pronounce. Okay, well, we can't just say the whole word. We gotta separate it by syllables here. Yeah, Mr. Lawrence. Yeah, we are praying for you guys. There's no doubt about that. Clarendon. Clarendon and Clarendon. Thank you, Tash. I'm trying. I like geography. It's kind of funny how, when I worked in television, it was funny how different cities are, like Madrid, Spain. I worked in Iowa, and it was Madrid, Iowa. It was Don, like the ton in Boston. Okay, Boston, Clarendon. Clarendon? Yeah, Treasure Beach. I mean, everybody's going to get a ton of rainfall. Clarendon. All right, we're done. Let's move on. Everybody's going to get a ton of rain. Somebody said Treasure Beach, Black River are going to get a lot of rainfall. Actually, it's going to be further east. I mean, you're going to get a ton of rain everywhere. The further west you go on the island, there actually might be less rain. You see the really steep gradient here, east to west, with less rainfall the further west that you go. The peak is probably going to be, which parish is this? Portland, either Portland or St. Thomas Parish. I sound like a Jamaican. I've always wanted to go to Jamaica. PETA Ann, if you put a gun to my head, I would say somewhere between White House and Treasure Beach. It's Tuesday morning, probably right around sunrise, is landfall. Well, I don't know if I literally can't go now because the airport's closed, but I will. How far is it from the island? It's in the upper left here, 110 miles south-southwest of Kingston. Or 180 kilometers? Yeah, Dave, that's really the major concern. Landslides, mudslides, when you've got potentially 3 feet, a meter of water rolling down Blue Mountain Peak, that's the major concern with this storm. I will, Dr. Dixon. There's nonstop flights from where I live to Montego Bay. I'm going to come. I did? Okay, good. Where's the wind going to be the worst? Wherever wherever the center of the storm makes landfall, that's where the wind's going to be the worst. So again, if you made me pick a city right now, I would say Black River. If you're in I really hope there's nobody in this chat that is, we got what, 1,200, 1,100 folks in here. Thank you guys for being here. Share it with your friends. Give us a like, subscribe to the channel. We're going to have, again, live coverage tomorrow and then all day Tuesday as it makes landfall. The mountains, they do cause more rain. Yes, they do. Because when you get, so it's called orographic lift. It's a whole other meteorological, what's the word? Not feature, meteorological concept. When you get wind that goes against the mountain, it has to rise. And once you get air to rise, that increases the chance of cloud formation. Then eventually when you get enough clouds, enough moisture, rain has to fall out of the clouds once the cloud is super saturated, 100+% humidity. But I don't want to bore you guys. Did Gilbert hit Jamaica as a 3 or 5? It was a high-end Cat 3. It was like 120 mile per hour category. This will be stronger than Gilbert. It will be. Yep, happy to be here. Well, to be honest, I don't want to be talking about a major hurricane hitting an island of 3 million people, but we're here to keep folks safe and protect life and property, so that's why we're here. How fast will it be traveling? About 10 to 15 miles per hour. Upper left, you see it now. It's moving at 5 miles an hour. This might be a little too big. Let's bring that down some. It's moving at 5 miles an hour, but it is going to pick up speed and move faster as it makes landfall. What was I going to look at over here? Sorry, guys. I'm going to look at something real quick. Okay. Black River is not a city. Oh, well, it says it is. Black River Town. It says it's the capital of St. Elizabeth Parish. Developed as a port around the mouth of the river with the same name. It's the gateway to the Treasure Beach Resort area. I love the Caribbean. Been to Aruba, been to the Bahamas. I almost went to St. Martin. I love the Caribbean. It's a sleepy little town. It does look small. The problem is it could be even more sleepy once this storm is over. If you get a hurricane to make landfall in this kind of a town, I don't know what the structures are made from, but it would not be good at all. St. Best Comfort Style Hotel. I love the Caribbean. How much destruction of homes might there be let's put it this way, wherever the eye makes landfall, if there's any structures, let alone homes, businesses, gyms, playgrounds, schools, etc., if they're not made out of concrete, there's going to be damage. Whether it's roof, siding, windows, there's going to be some level of damage. The level of damage just depends on how strongly built that piece of infrastructure is. Will Portmore get storm surge? Yes. I would guess 10 feet of storm surge in Portmore. I don't know, like this is Bayside, the Bayside part of Portmore, Bridgeport. I don't know how far off the ground Fort Augusta Drive is, but this is all going to be underwater, I'm sure. The Port Kingston Causeway, I would guess, is going to be underwater unless this is like 10 feet above sea level. And the bad part is that the Kingston airport is probably going to be underwater to some degree. Again, I don't know how elevated the runway is, how elevated the terminal is. Looks like there's, what, 7 gates there in the commercial side. Yeah, got to seek high ground. And the unfortunate part with this is that there's going to be more rain the higher in the elevation. The gentleman was talking about earlier. You're going to get more rain the higher elevation you go, and then you got to deal with mudslides, landslides. That's going to be the most dangerous part. It's like when Hurricane Helene hit the Carolinas here last year in the U.S. The mountains were the most decimated part from Hurricane Helene because of all the water running down. I mean, you can't stop. It's like an avalanche. You can't stop it. Yeah, both airports are closed. Yeah. Yeah, any road in and around the water, the ocean, is going to be underwater. Port Royal is going to be underwater, I'm sure. Unfortunately, again, I don't know what the exact... Can I turn on like a topographic view here? Terrain. What is terrain? This doesn't say much at all. Okay, never mind. If you live there, you know what the elevation of things are, etc. So, Ocho Rios Airport will be fine. American flies there. Is that like up here? Where's Ocho Rios? Yeah, it is up. I don't know why I didn't see it. Is the airport still... Where is the airport number 1? Here's the cruise terminal. I don't see the airport. Maybe I'm blind. I could be blind. It's been a long day. It's going to be a long few days. Portland getting battered from this morning. Yeah, the southeastern parts of Jamaica are going to get hit the worst the next couple of days because you can see the radar above me up there, way up there. The rain, I'm going to blow this up for a second. That's too big. Like, you can see the rain bands moving over the southeastern part of the island right now. Is this a 24-hour radar loop? That's pretty impressive. Let's make that smaller. Rain not falling. Yeah, Montego Bay, you haven't seen much rain at all the past couple of days. It's probably not going to start raining in Montego Bay until... Let's see here. Maybe some outer bands, maybe a shower tonight in Montego Bay, but it's not going to get bad in Montego Bay until like tomorrow, like 24 hours from now, like around midnight tomorrow night. Ian Fleming Airport? Oh, up here. Okay. Who flies into here, I wonder? This isn't just like private. There's like commercial flights too. I'm reading this guy's review. Yeah, there's an American plane. I don't know. Interesting. I wonder where they fly to. Should we just go to American Airlines right now and find out? Oh, there's an easier way to do this. Hold on. Ian Fleming Airport. The airport historically provided service to the United States, other Caribbean islands. Yeah, American Eagle flies to Miami. Well, unless they stopped. It looks like they did around the turn of the century. Now they don't. Let's find out. Miami to, what is this, Ocho Rios? Yeah, they do. Yeah, look at that. Somebody's right. That's crazy. They fly it once a day. Yeah. And then Sangster's Montego Bay, they fly that, what, 3 times a day? Yeah. Interesting. Anyways, back to the weather. We'll stay on the air a little bit longer. I'm getting warm. I'm getting hungry. Any other questions? We'll take questions from the chat. Yeah, that data was from a little while ago, but we pulled up Google Flights and it showed Miami to Ocho Rios. It's called Basketball Airport. The secret air. Yeah, I wonder what. Yeah, well, yeah, we won't go into all that, but it was recently upgraded. What about Runaway Bay? Is this on the northern side of the island? Yeah, I would argue like these areas on the northern and northeastern sides, like Ocho Rios, like St. Anne's, like these are probably the best areas to be for this storm. Thank you, Bakers. We're gonna do it again tomorrow and Tuesday and probably Wednesday. Yeah, I would argue these areas on the northern, anything Montego Bay and east is probably the best areas to be. So I'm going to mispronounce the Trelawney. It's not Trelawney. I'm sure it's not. The St. Anne Parish, the St. Mary Parish are probably the 2 best parishes to be in. I would probably say St. Anne's Parish is the best one to be in. If I had to pick somewhere if I was living in Jamaica and I had to pick somewhere to go, I would go to St. Anne's Parish. I don't know the topography that well. I've never been to Jamaica, just purely off of where this storm is likely to track and where the topography is the highest and lowest. I would argue the northern side of the island is the best place to be. Trelawney. It is actually Trelawney. I would have never guessed that. Yeah, it's the water temp. It's because it's so warm. The water's so warm. With Horn, I'm sure it doesn't have that many ends. Oh, well, this is a tiny town. You might get some really bad wind in With Horn, Jamaica. I would not stay there. St. Catherine has a lot of high-leveled places in the country areas. Which one's St. Catherine? Oh, west of Kingston? Yeah, I mean, you could go to, like, Linstead. I just don't want a landslide coming to my house. Like, I don't want, like, a huge slope behind me. You know what I mean? It could pass over Negril. Is it Negril? It could. I think it's going to be a little east of Negril. I think it's going to be closer to probably east of Savannah Lamar. Somebody asked me. I said I said Treasure Beach, right? Where did Treasure Beach go on the map? I said Treasure Beach. Like if I had to pick a landfall spot, you could pick Belmont. You could pick White House. It's probably going to be somewhere here in the southwestern part of. Oh, there's Treasure Beach, further southeast. Yeah, you could say northeastern St. Catherine, so where, like up in here, like Jubilee Town, Seafield. The higher elevations are going to have higher winds, but you're also further east, likely further away from the core of the storm. So, disruption to the airline industry in the Caribbean. I mean, the Jamaican airports are closed, but hold on. It's a pretty small storm, all things considered, on satellite. So I don't think you're gonna have major, like if you're going like Miami to Aruba, you can fly around it. Like if people are flying from Miami to Aruba, they're just gonna fly to the east of it. If you're gonna fly to Curacao, same thing, you're gonna fly east of it. If you're flying to the Caymans, you're fine. So it's not like, unless you're flying like Miami to Bogota, Colombia, then you got to fly around it. But it's very minimal airline disruption, I would say that, Dave. My name's Dave, too, so great name, Dave, by the way. Spanish Town, St. Catherine. Spanish Town right here. I mean, it's going to get hit. How bad? It depends exactly where the storm makes landfall. This picture over, I thought that like showed like a crazy wind gust. I saw like a reflection in the monitor. I want to see how long the flatbridge camera stays up. That's going to be really interesting. Yeah, Tash, if I can pin a comment, is it going to let me pin a comment? Yes. That is the message of both this live stream and this storm as a whole. Got to get to higher ground. There would be Daves like this. Well done. Well done. I almost want to make you a moderator just off of that comment. That was good. Yeah, the guy who runs the See Jamaica website or like the YouTube channel has done a great job with all these cameras. I donated to him earlier today because it's technically free. I'm like, people are going to be using your cameras like crazy. Waterworks. Is that in Kingston? It's like an area in Kingston. It looks like an interesting golf course. Kingston's going to get hit. I mean, just about the same as everybody else. It's not like hurricanes are not like storms or like tornadoes where they're very small. Like you can see in the satellite picture in the bottom left here, the hurricane covers just about the entire island. Westmoreland. We'll take a couple more, and then I think we're going to reset, get some sleep, and get ready for tomorrow and then Tuesday. Oh, the parish? See, I would argue the Westmoreland parish is probably the most wind prone. It's the least water flash flooding rainfall prone because, again, that's where the less rainfall is supposed to hit. Most rain eastern side of the island, least rain western side, but the most wind is going to be probably somewhere between Treasure Beach and Savannah Lamar. Hanover. The Hanover parish, same thing. The rain won't be the biggest threat here. It's going to be wind and potential storm surge. Storm surge will be a problem along the coast. If you're anywhere along the southern coast from Orange Bay, West End, Little Bay, Bluefields, Treasure Beach, Alligator Pond, Alley, Portmore, if you're anywhere along the southern coast here, you're at a risk for storm surge. 3 to 10 feet. Got to be moving inland if you're anywhere along the southern coast. Yeah, Treasure Beach could be like the town hit the worst from this. If I had to pick a town, out of a hat off the map, I would pick Treasure Beach as potentially the worst to be hit. Kingston wins. Let's see what here. I'll show you. Let's show you. Wind gust miles per hour. I'd say 90 to 100 mile per hour wind gusts in Kingston, which would be what, like 140, 150 kilometers per hour, if you need a translation. It is 6:58. I am in North Carolina. It is 6:58. So it's 5:58 in Jamaica because they don't do daylight savings time. Hanover winds, same story, 100. Oh, we didn't check the hurricane hunters. All right, so they're in the storm now. We'll stay on the air until they do their first pass through the eye, and then we will get off the air. I want to see if it's strengthened because I'll tell you what, it looks like on satellite that it has strengthened. Rain has started to pick up in St. Catherine. Okay. Yeah, the airport is next to the sea, and that is a problem. It all depends on the angle of approach. If Melissa does something like this, here, I'll show you. If it does something like this, if that's the track the eye takes, it's going to be a problem for Montego Bay once the storm gets over here. Let's say the storm goes like this. Let's say the center is right here. So you've got winds that circulate counterclockwise around the storm. So you're going to have the storm pushing the ocean water along the coastline. That's why I say it's the best if you're in the northeastern part of the island, is because the water is actually going to be pushed away from the coast, out to sea. The tide could actually drop instead of going the other way. Complex setup here. It can cover the whole island with, yeah, I mean, you see the satellite image in the bottom left here. It just about covers the whole island, yeah, with really strong rain and winds. Let's see, so they are at 17.4 north and 79.2 west. What did I, so they are, oh, they're up here. They're like up here. So they're making their approach into the storm right now. The hurricane hunters right now are right here, and they're flying. Does anybody at home want to fly directly into a Category potentially 5 storm? Any takers on that? Yeah, Christopher. So I'll stop the satellite loop here. So it's going to do one of these. It's going to go west, west, west. By tomorrow morning, it's going to be here. By tomorrow afternoon, it's going to be here. And then by Tuesday morning, it's going to be here. If it waits to turn northeast, it could end up here. I would say it's going to be somewhere along here, landfall. So if the storm is here, I don't like how thick this pen is, hold on. So if the storm is where that L is, you're going to have winds counterclockwise around the storm. So storm surge will be worst in the eastern sides of the storm. That's where the ocean water would literally get pushed inland, and you'd have the worst damage right along the coast there. We know it's going to make that turn because of the upper level steering currents in play here. Let's show you this one. So again, Melissa's down here. Ooh, I don't know how to draw. That was ugly. Melissa's here. Right now it's kind of stuck between this area of high pressure and there's a weak one here. It has just enough momentum from this high pressure to make it go east to west, which is what it's doing. But then we fast forward this to Monday. See this area of low pressure in the United States and Tennessee? See this dip in the browns here and see how they're connecting right here? Any hurricane will go towards the weakness in this ridge over here, this H, and then the H over here. So it's going to want to gain latitude, and that's what happens. And then it gets pulled even further northeast faster because of this area. That's a lot of drawings. It's all mid-latitude atmospheric dynamics at play. I could go get my book. I could go get my Calc 3 book, and we could do some triple integrals on deriving the QG omega. No, I don't want to do that. We're not doing all that. I took enough math. Enough of that noise. Well, glad you find it informative, April. It's good to hear. Where's the hurricane? There he is. All right. So they're making progress. This has been updated in 20 minutes. Usually it happens, updates every 10. I'm good, Rosemary. I'm getting kind of hungry, but I'm good. Witchcraft, this? A lot of colors, yeah. 500 millibar, so 18,000 foot geopotential heights, and MSLP, mean sea level pressure. Will Trump help Jamaica? I would guess yes. I don't have his phone number. But the U.S. response to this will honestly be interesting. It will be. I don't know what the U.S. response is going to be. I'm trying to think the last like big storm to hit like this area, like Puerto Rico got hit by Maria in 17, but Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. So the last Jamaican hurricane was Gilbert in 88. That's a long time ago. The Bahamas were hit really bad by Dorian in 2018, but the area in the Bahamas that was hit really bad is not densely populated. Yeah, Scott, it's not going to, the eye is not going to go through Kingston. It is not, which is good. But somebody's going to get 140 plus mile per hour wind gusts, which is 200 plus kilometer per hour wind gusts. Yeah, like Beryl hit Barbados. Really, I don't know what the U.S. response is going to be like. It'll be interesting, honestly. I'm getting hungry too. We dropped like 80 viewers after we started talking politics. Maybe we shouldn't start talking politics anymore. Even though it's not even really politics, it's just like a humanitarian response more than anything else. Which parish is the eye going to go? I think it's going to go through St. Elizabeth, if I had to guess. Either St. Elizabeth or, what's this one? St. James, or Westmoreland, I should say. I think it's going to go through St. Elizabeth. But it could be either or. It could be, I think it could be right on the edge here. Like White House, Font Hill, Crawford, right between Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth. The rain is like weirdly making that camera. That camera is not a good nighttime camera. Let's see. St. Elizabeth. Yeah, I think St. Elizabeth might be the worst hit out of everybody. It very well could be. Flooding is what we're mostly concerned about in Portmore. There'll be some wind. The wind's not going to be light at all. Yeah, Dr. Brown, this is what we're at the point in the forecast where everything's kind of baked in. The forecast has pretty high confidence at this point in terms of it's just a matter of which parish is the storm going to make landfall in. Is it going to be Manchester? Is it going to be St. Elizabeth? Is it going to be Westmoreland? We know Jamaica is going to get hit. We just don't know which parish it's going to be. I can't really speak to the population of Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth parishes, but it doesn't look like it's as populated as St. Andrew Parish, which is where, of course, Kingston is. Clarendon's not going to be good. Clarendon's not going to be a walk in the park. Every parish is going to get hit. Every one. It's just a matter of is it going to be a 10 out of 10 hit or a 9 out of 10 hit. Even like St. Anne's or St. Mary's Parish is going to be like a 7 out of 10 hit. Like we call that the best case outcome. It's still going to be a 7 out of 10 hit. So it's not going to be a walk in the park. Sorry, I'm looking at something. Is that the latest image? Hold on. I don't know if that is the latest image. Oops. That looks better. Doom and gloom. I mean, this is not going to be good. You can call it doom and gloom, you can call it whatever you want, but we're just here to tell you the facts of what it's going to be. This is going to be the worst hurricane to hit Jamaica in modern history. There's really no way you can beat around the bush there. It's stronger than Gilbert. It's got more rain than Gilbert. It's going to make landfall on the island, about a 95% chance. Yeah, we don't want to sugarcoat it. We don't want to lie about it. We don't want to. It is what it is. We have not heard from these hurricane hunters in 24 minutes. It's going to be way worse than Beryl. Beryl was like a tropical storm compared to what Melissa is going to be. We'll call it Sunrise Tuesday, Carol. Sunrise Tuesday. Correct. Some will be hit harder. It is what it is. I might go to Jamaica after the fact and do get some help to the great folks of Jamaica, the Jamaicans. There's people still out. They're enjoying the calm before the storm, I guess, because there's not a whole lot of rain on the island right now. So, yeah. This isn't. Let's go to this website. Okay, so there you can see them. They're entering the eye right now. They're entering the storm right now, I should say. I will visit. No, there's no doubt about that, Tash. I will. And the fact that there's houses at I mean, that's going to be huge. That's going to be huge. That hopefully will limit the level of destruction on the island. Yeah. 95%, Scott. I mean, we are very, very confident. Lorna, what was Gilbert like? I kind of want to know more about... Sorry, I want to know more about what Gilbert was like in 80. That was, what, 37 years ago? Okay, where is the Recon data? It's not updating. Where are you? Hurricane Ian? Yeah, I mean, if you were in like Fort Myers area, Hurricane Ian was bad. I mean, yeah, it was like a borderline Cat 3, Cat 4. Yeah. Gilbert was in 1988. Gilbert aftermath wasn't pretty. Yeah, I can only imagine what the aftermath of Melissa is going to be. We're going to stay on the air until Recon goes through Melissa and sees what the latest minimum central pressure. The last pass-through, you see it here, was 942 millibars. And the Hurricane Center, way up there in that top left-hand corner, was calling it 941 millibars. The lower that number is, the stronger the storm, the stronger the winds, the lower that central pressure number is. So I bet we're going to see a number in the 930s. If we see anything in the 920s, that means this storm is rapidly intensifying. So we're just going to have to see what the number is from this guy flying into the storm. Many houses lost their roofs. The island was flattened, fallen trees everywhere. Most of us had no electricity and water for months. Then you had the price gouging. Wow. Well, Wilma was 882, I think. This is the strongest storm to make landfall in Jamaica. This is not going to be the strongest storm of all time. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's the strongest to hit Jamaica. Oh, here's the update. Okay, good. This site's updating now. Lost their homes from Ian? Yeah. Ian was a really bad storm. It looked like it was going to wipe Tampa clean, but instead it hit Fort Myers took that turn northeast, or southeast, I should say. What else we got here? Jamaicans are resilient, I will say that, after making videos and forecasts the past week or so and seeing some of the Jamaican comments and outreach, etc. It's been impressive, I will say that. It'll be worse than Gilbert, yeah. It will be. Unless we could get a miracle. We could. About a 5% chance of it going just west of the island. But it's pretty unlikely. It looks like it's going to be Tuesday morning for landfall. This is noon. This is 1 p.m. local time Tuesday, making landfall. I think this is a little bit behind. I think it's Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. maybe. Yeah, pray for Jamaica. This hurricane season has really been quiet until now. I mean, it took until late October to have a major hurricane making landfall on a landmass. And this year, it's Jamaica. Somebody play the Jeopardy music. Somebody play the Jeopardy music. We're waiting on the Recon flight to get into the core of Melissa. Relatively rural. It's not going to make landfall in Kingston, which is good. But it's not going to be great. I mean, we're not going to sugarcoat things, that's for sure. Wow. Nice bumpy ride. Yeah. I don't know. Being a hurricane. Okay, here you go. In the next 10 minutes, we'll probably get our number. So these are the wind barbs at flight level. These are, what is that, 50, 60, 65? Yeah, so they're a little bit outside the core, but they're probably about to enter the eye right now as we speak. As we speak, they're probably about to enter the eye. I'm going to pin this comment now from Ronaldo. Sorry, Tash. Ronaldo's comment has been pinned. That's a good comment. Yeah, it's a good point, Adrian, too. It's a different angle of attack. It is. That's true. Different angle of approach. In about 9 minutes, we'll know how strong Melissa is, thanks to the hurricane hunters. Kindred is from the U.S. Hello, Kindred. Thanks for joining us. Been live for about 2.5 hours. Just about 2.5 hours. Wow, you ran to your church. Where were you? Were you inland? Were you in Kingston? Wow, what a story. Who else in the chat went through Gilbert in '88? I didn't know I could do this. You can vote in that poll if you want. I didn't know you could do a poll, but the poll is, do you think this will be worse than Gilbert for Jamaica? We'll see what the results are. We got about 850 folks in here. Thank you, Kindred. My name is now Flash Weather. No, my name is Dave, but they both work. They both work. Yeah, that's a good point by Cash, or by Tash. Yeah, write stuff down, film things. It is going to be historical to some degree. 78% say it's going to be worse than Gilbert for Jamaica. And we have 55 votes. I guess I could be showing something other than this, since we're not going to get an update. I think this is the graphic that really says it all right here. Hello, how about this? You were 5, you were more excited. Yeah. Defender of the Weatherverse. That's pretty good. I'll take that. 78, we got 67 votes, and 78% of the voters say it will be worse than Gilbert. Thank you, Rebecca. It's very kind. I mean, again, I was not alive in 1988. You can probably tell that by looking at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen right here. But I think it will be worse than Gilbert because of this right here, because of the rain, because of the landslides, because of the mudslides, because of the flash flooding. Jamaica, I'm sure, is what I'm learning tonight, is can handle the wind. Concrete structures, great. I mean, that means we can handle the wind. But water is the most dangerous part of any hurricane. Yeah, this is the most concerning part. What time is it? 7:21. So we'll get an update from the hurricane hunters in about 4 minutes. And about 7:25 we'll get an update, so about 3 minutes. Yeah, and it's not even the fact that Gilbert was a 3 and this is a 4 or 5. It's the fact that Gilbert was moving a lot faster and did not drop anywhere near as much of rain as what Melissa's going to do. That's the main, really, differentiator between Gilbert and Melissa. Yeah. 80% of the poll, we got 98 votes. 80% say this is going to be worse. Wow. Well, thank you, Dance. We try. We did not exist in 1988. That is true. So that is a difference. A lot of things did not exist in 1988. Including me, I guess. You could argue. That's just a fact. Hurricane watch, tropical storm warning still in effect in southwestern Haiti as well. Gilbert was moving with a purpose. Melissa is dancing around. Yeah, she kind of is. Yeah, there's only so much preparation you can really do for a storm like this. There really is. %% of the chat thinks it's going to be worse than Gilbert, and I think it's going to be worse than Gilbert. Because of the rain, because of this, because of the crazy amount of rain, 20 to 30 inches, maybe they're saying up to 40 inches. In which parish is that? Portland Parish, because of all the mountains up here. This is where there's going to be some crazy videos, some crazy landslides, mudslides. You're going to get some crazy stuff happen in Portland and St. Thomas parishes. $7:24. Any minute now, we'll get an update from the hurricane hunters. Any minute. Not yet. Any minute. Get your drum rolls ready. This could be a pass that says it's a Category 5 hurricane. This could be the pass through the storm, the visit to the storm that says it's going to be that it is a Cat 5. I mean, on satellite it has the look. There's no doubt about that, but I don't know. We're going to know shortly. Melissa is hungry for misery. Wow. Patricia says Gilbert was phenomenal. I'm not sure if that's the word I would use, but to each their own. Here's the radar in Kingston. You can see the eye of the storm right here, moving due west. It'll get to about here, and then it'll move northeast. No update yet. That is true. It's worse than Gilbert, but it is in 1988. How do people evacuate Jamaica? Well, I'm assuming they try to fly out, but now the airports are closed. So get to higher ground. Frantically refreshing this page to see if we have an update. I'm going to end the poll. So 79% of you said that Melissa will end up being worse than Gilbert. What do we got? Here we go. 932. 932 is your central pressure right here. And in the upper left-hand corner of the screen, it's 941. So Melissa has dropped 9 millibars in the past 3 hours. That is not good. Now, what's the wind? What do we got here? It's not a Cat 5 yet. She's getting there, but she's not there yet. These wind bars mean the wind's about 120 knots at flight level, which is not Cat 5. Good. We don't want her to be Cat 5. I'll tweet this out. She'll be a Cat 5 tonight if this rate of strengthening continues. There's no doubt about that. All right, 7:30 here in Eastern Time, 6:30 in Jamaica. We've been live about 2.5, just right at exactly 2.5 hours. We will be back tomorrow. We'll have a video in the morning. Hello. We'll have a video in the morning, either a short or a long form video. And then we'll have another stream tomorrow afternoon. We'll have a really good idea, nailed down. We'll know for sure whether or not the 5% chance of a western miss is possible or not. And then we'll start to narrow down a potential landfall location. So Appreciate you guys being here. We got 860 now. We had almost 1,300 at one point. Crazy numbers. Just trying to help inform, protect life and property there in Jamaica. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Download the Flash weather app on your app store. I got out of TV to work for Flash because we're doing some pretty incredible stuff. So thanks for coming out to the stream. Like, subscribe, the whole 9 yards. You've heard it before, and we will see you.